Okay, imagine this. It's the day after Christmas. You wake up. Maybe the house is quiet. And then your child is gone, vanished.
Chillin'.
And instead, you find this bizarre ransom note right there in your own home.
It's terrifying to even think about.
This is the true story of JonBenét Ramsey. It's a case it's haunted America for decades.
Absolutely. And today we're kind of pulling back that yellow tape, looking at the evidence that's still whispers.
We're talking about the murder of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey in Boulder, Colorado, December 26th, 1996.
Such a tragedy. And we're basing our conversation today on, well, some recent news articles, but also digging back into the original autopsy report.
Yeah, we want to really explore the key evidence, see what still stands out, and maybe how perspectives have shifted over the years.
It's a case with so many strange twists right from the start. That ransom note alone is something else.
Yeah, it really is. The sources we've looked at give a pretty detailed picture.
They do. So let's start right there with the note.
Okay, so Patsy Ramsey, the mother, she calls 911. Says JonBenét's missing.
Right. Panic, obviously.
And then she says she found this note. And it's not just a few lines. It's long. 2.5 pages.
2.5 pages. That's unusual for a ransom note, isn't it? Most are short, to the point.
Very unusual. And it demanded $118,000.
Ah, the $118,000. That number.
Yeah, what's the deal with that number?
Well, the really strange thing is that it was almost exactly the amount of a bonus John Ramsey, the father, had just received.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a coincidence.
Or maybe not a coincidence. That specific detail immediately made investigators, raise their eyebrows. Why that number?
Exactly. And the note itself, the language was odd too, right?
Yeah.
Something about a small foreign faction?
Yeah, small foreign faction. It sounds almost theatrical, not like your typical kidnapper trying to be discreet.
Right. It felt off. The FBI looked at it, and some agents apparently thought, this looks staged.
That language, the length, the specific dollar amount, it all contributed to that feeling.
And then there's where it was found and what it was written on.
Big points there. It was written on a legal pad from inside the Ramsey house.
Their own notepads.
Their own pad. And using a pen from the house, too.
Okay, that definitely fuels the stage theory.
It does. And Patsy herself apparently mentioned finding what seemed like a practice version, a draft, on the pad earlier.
A draft, like someone was working on it.
That was the implication, yeah. Which, again, is just bizarre if it was a real kidnapping note left by an intruder.
So naturally, they looked at Patsy's handwriting.
Of course. That was a huge focus. Experts compared samples of her writing to the note.
And what did they find? Was it a match?
Well, it was complicated. Many experts, including folks from the FBI, noted striking similarities. They apparently found that something like 24 out of the 26 letters used in the note were consistent with Patsy's known handwriting.
24 out of 26. That sounds pretty significant.
It does. But there were also inconsistencies noted even within Patsy's own handwriting samples that she provided later.
Oh, so?
Like maybe the way she formed certain letters, say a lowercase a, might look different from one sample to the next. Some speculated she might have been trying to disguise her writing in the samples.
Ah, okay. So similarities to the note, but also inconsistencies in her own samples. That makes it tricky.
Very tricky. There was also this detail about spelling. Apparently, in one sample, she misspelled advise as advise, but spelled it correctly in another sample. Little things like that just added layers of questions.
And the ransom note itself had some strange phrases, didn't it? Something about resting.
Yeah, that was weird. It said something like, the delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested.
That sounds almost parental.
Yeah.
Or just odd for a kidnapper.
Some people interpreted it that way, yeah, like a maternal concern slipping through. And it also told John to bring an adequate-sized attaché case.
An attaché case. Why specify that?
Again, strange detail. Some theories suggested maybe it was to give John a reason to be seen leaving the house with a bag later, but that's pure speculation, obviously. Dark speculation.
It all just seems so off for a real kidnapping scenario. The length, the source of the paper, the specific money, the weird phrases.
It definitely led investigators down the path of considering family involvement very strongly, very early on.
But then the whole situation takes an even darker turn hours later.
Right, because while everyone's focused on this potential kidnapping and the note, John Ramsey goes down to the basement.
And he finds JonBenét.
He finds her body, wrapped in her white blanket, duct tape over her mouth.
Oh, God.
And a ligature. Basically a cord tied around her neck, tightened with a stick, like a garrote.
In their own basement. After they thought she was kidnapped and taken away?
Exactly. Several hours after that initial 911 call.
And the autopsy later confirmed it was brutal.
Yes. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. So she was strangled and she suffered a severe blow to the head.
Just horrific. And what about entry to the house? Did they find any sign of a break-in?
That's another huge point. No. No signs of forced entry. No broken windows they could definitively say were from an intruder. No jimmy doors. Nothing obvious.
If someone came from outside, how did they get in and out?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It suggests either the killer was already inside, or they knew a way in, maybe had a key, or perhaps found an unsecured entry point that wasn't obvious later, like that basement window.
What about the basement window?
There was a broken window in the basement, and a suitcase was found placed underneath it.
A suitcase?
Yeah. John Ramsey apparently said it shouldn't have been there, and it looked like it was maybe placed there as a step. They supposedly found a faint footprint on top of it, too.
So maybe someone did come in or out that way.
Right.
But still, not exactly forced entry.
Right. It's ambiguous. And adding to the confusion, the crime scene itself wasn't handled perfectly in those initial hours.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. People were just wandering around.
Friends, family, police officers. The house was full of people before it was properly secured and processed. Evidence could have been trampled, moved, contaminated.
And John Ramsey carried JonBenét's body upstairs, right?
He did. Understandable reaction from a father finding his daughter, perhaps, but from an evidence perspective, potentially disastrous. Moving the body could disturb crucial forensic clues.
Even the police chief later admitted mistakes were made.
Yes, former Chief Mark Beckner acknowledged that. He specifically mentioned not securing the scene well enough initially, and, importantly, not separating John and Patsy immediately for individual interviews.
Why is separating them so important?
Standard procedure in cases like this. It prevents potential collusion, allows investigators to get independent accounts right away, and see if the stories match or conflict. They regretted not doing that from the get-go.
So a compromised scene, a strange note, no forced entry.
Yeah.
It's already incredibly confusing.
Absolutely. And then you start looking at the specific physical evidence found.
Like the garrote. That wasn't just a simple rope, was it?
No, it was described as a handmade ligature, made from a length of cord and part of a broken paintbrush handle, used as a tourniquet to tighten it.
A paintbrush handle? Where did that come from?
Reports suggest it came from an art kit belonging to Patsy Ramsey. The brush was broken, and part of it was used in the garrote.
Wow. Okay. And there was DNA mentioned with that.
John Ramsey has claimed that unidentified male DNA was found on the garrote, but he's also stated it wasn't tested, or perhaps not adequately tested with newer methods. The police might contest that, but it's part of the narrative.
And the duct tape over her mouth?
Yes, found across her mouth. John Ramsey removed it when he found her.
Okay. What else? You mentioned the suitcase. Any other unusual items?
Well, there was supposedly a length of rope found in a guest bedroom. A retired detective involved in the case later claimed it didn't belong to the Ramseys.
Another out-of-place item?
Possibly. And then there was the boot print.
In the basement?
Yes, a partial boot print found near the body in the wine cellar room where she was discovered. It reportedly had a high-tech marking.
Did anyone in the family own high-tech boots?
Apparently not. No one in the family or known visitors that day owned shoes matching that print, so potentially a clue pointing to an outsider.
But the biggest piece of evidence that gets talked about, especially in recent years, is the DNA, right?
Definitely. Unidentified male DNA, found in several locations.
Where exactly?
On her underwear, on her long johns, and reportedly also under her fingernails.
Under her fingernails? Like maybe from a struggle?
That's one interpretation, yes. It suggests contact with an unknown male. And crucially, investigators have never been able to match this DNA profile to anyone in their databases or to any known suspect.
And this is the DNA that led to the Ramseys being cleared later on?
Primarily, yes. In 2008, the district attorney at the time, Mary Lacey, issued a statement essentially exonerating the Ramsey family based largely on this unidentified male DNA evidence found on the clothing. She felt it pointed strongly towards an intruder.
So DNA from an unknown man found on her clothes and possibly under her nails. That seems pretty compelling for the intruder theory.
For many people, it is. It's perhaps the strongest piece of evidence supporting the idea that someone from outside the family was responsible. When they say unidentified male DNA, it means they have genetic material from a male, but it doesn't match John Ramsey, Burke Ramsey, or anyone in the CODIS crime database they've checked against.
But even with the DNA, The debate didn't stop, did it? People still seem divided.
Not at all. The case remains incredibly polarizing. For instance, you have people like Joe Berlinger, the filmmaker who did a docuseries. He initially suspected the family.
Right, I remember that.
But he later said he came to believe the investigation focused too heavily on the Ramseys from the start, potentially missing other leads. He felt the DNA evidence should shift the focus.
So he changed his mind based on the evidence he reviewed.
Yeah, he expressed regret for his earlier assumptions and urged authorities to seriously explore alternative theories, particularly focusing on that DNA.
That reflects how complicated this all is. The initial suspicion, the handling of the scene, the weird note pointing one way.
And then the DNA pointing another way, or at least raising serious questions about the initial theories.
And wasn't there a grand jury involved at one point?
There was. In 1999, a grand jury heard evidence for months, and they actually voted to recommend charges against John and Patsy Ramsey.
Charges? For what?
For child abuse resulting in death. Basically alleging they permitted JonBenét to be in a dangerous situation that led to her death and then hindered the investigation.
But the prosecutor didn't file those charges.
Correct. The district attorney at that time, Alex Hunter, declined to prosecute, citing insufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. He felt he couldn't secure a conviction.
So even the legal system was divided. The grand jury says yes, the DA says no.
Exactly. It highlights just how ambiguous the evidence was, or at least how differently it could be interpreted. One body saw enough to indict, the lead prosecutor didn't see enough to win in court.
And then years later, a different DA, Mary Lacey, uses the DNA to clear them.
Right, which just added another layer. Her decision was controversial, too, with some arguing the DNA didn't necessarily rule out family involvement entirely, depending on how and when it got there.
And John Ramsey is still actively pushing for more investigation, isn't he?
Very much so. He believes the killer's DNA is known, sitting in the evidence files. He's expressed immense frustration with the Boulder Police Department, feeling they haven't done enough with modern DNA technology.
He wants things retested,
Oh.
like the garrote.
Yes, he specifically mentioned wanting items like the garrote, the long johns, and other key pieces retested using the latest, most sensitive DNA methods, hoping to finally identify the source of that male DNA.
Do the police agree?
The Boulder police have stated they are working with experts and using new technology as it becomes viable, and that they haven't stopped investigating. But there's clearly friction and disagreement between John Ramsey and the department about the pace and focus.
So almost 3 decades later,
Yeah.
we're still here. The case is cold, but the questions are burning hot.
They really are. It's one of those enduring mysteries. The evidence is complex, contradictory in places. It just doesn't offer a single, simple answer.
Key questions still hang in the air. Who really wrote that ransom note?
And why? What was the motive behind its strange content?
If there was an intruder, how did they get in and out so cleanly, apart from maybe that boot print in the DNA?
And the biggest one, who does that unidentified male DNA belong to? Will they ever find a match?
Yeah, the whispers of crime from that Christmas night in Boulder, they're definitely still echoing. As technology advances, perspectives shift. Will we ever get the full truth about JonBenét?
It's hard to say. Every piece of evidence seems to raise as many questions as it answers. That note, if not Patsy, then who and why mimic her style? The DNA compelling, but how did it get only on certain items? If it was an intruder, the lack of other signs is puzzling. It's just layers upon layers.
What piece of evidence do you listening think holds the key? Is it the note? The DNA? Something else entirely? It really makes you think.
It absolutely does. It's a case that forces you to confront ambiguity and the terrible reality that sometimes the truth remains hidden in the shadows.
If you've been gripped by this story, and frankly, how could you not be, please be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We go into these dark corners of true crime regularly.
And definitely follow us on Spotify too, so you never miss an episode where we unpack these complex cases.